The shrill ringing of the phone distracted me from my musings as I washed my breakfast dishes. I wiped my hands on my towel and looked at the caller ID before answering. I didn't recognize the number, but I answered anyway. Hello? Linda, it's Mary. Mary Caldwell is Tom's mother. The voice on the other end of the line answered. I slumped into a kitchen chair in shock. It had been over a decade since I'd last heard from my former mother-in-law. Much less since the divorce. What can I do for you, Mary? I stuttered, clutching the phone receiver tightly. It's about Tom. He passed away last week. I'm sorry to hear that. An awkward silence hung between us for a few heavy moments before Mary continued. I'm calling because I need you to pay for his plaque. After all, he was Sam's father. You have an obligation to decorate his grave with dignity. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. My blood began to boil. You've got to be kidding me, Mary. I don't owe you or Tom anything, I spat out. I haven't had any contact with you or Tom since I got divorced 12 years ago. Sam doesn't even know who Tom is. Now listen, young lady, shouted Mary. Tom gave you a son. If it wasn't for him, there would be no Sam. You will show your respect by buying a monument to him. I had to restrain myself from laughing out loud at this woman's audacity. Tom bullied me, manipulated me, pushed me down the stairs during my pregnancy, and his family has made my life a living hell. And she expects me to pay for his headstone? Mary, let me get this straight. Tom lost the right to play the role of Sam's father when he attacked me. You all lost any privileges the moment you supported his behavior. Sam and I owe you nothing. This conversation is over. I hung up before she could answer, my hands shaking with anger and adrenaline. I couldn't believe she was defiantly asking me to pay for his wake after everything he'd done. I looked at Sam's picture on the refrigerator and felt a wave of gratitude for my strong, wonderful son. However we got here, at least now we have each other, and Tom can stay in the past where he belongs. I met Tom when I was only 19 years old and working as a waitress at a local diner. He was handsome, charming, and relentlessly pursued me until I finally agreed to go on a date with him. I was young, naive, and swept off my feet by this older man who showered me with attention and compliments. We dated for 6 months before he proposed, and I readily accepted, blinded by what I thought was love. My mom tried to reason with me when I broke the news to her. Don't you think you should wait a little longer, Linda? You're both still just starting to get to know each other. What's the rush? She asked, concerned. Oh, Mom, when you know, you just know, I exclaimed. Tom is everything I've been looking for. I love him so much. Please just be happy for me. So we were married in a small ceremony, organized and paid for by Tom's family. A year later, I was pregnant with Sam, and that's when things started to change. Tom became possessive, controlling, lashing out in a jealous rage if I even spoke to another man. At first, I made excuses he was just stressed out at work. He didn't mean what he said. But the emotional abuse took its toll. He came home one night, reeking of alcohol. I told him about his drinking. I'm worried about you, Tom. Don't you think you should slow down a little? He became furious. Don't tell me what to do, you stupid woman. He shoved me hard against the wall, his face contorted with anger. I felt a sharp pain in my swollen, pregnant belly. Terrified, I ran out of the apartment, barely wearing my clothes, and sobbed. I drove to my parents' house, waking them up in the middle of the night. My mom put her arms around me, gently stroking my hair as I cried. You and the baby can stay here as long as you need to. We'll help you deal with Linda. That's when I realized I had to get out of this toxic relationship. I soon filed for divorce, a difficult but necessary step to protect myself and my unborn son. The divorce proceedings were a nightmare. Tom refused to accept that I was leaving him. He would show up unexpectedly at my parents' house, begging me to take him back and promising that he would change. My mom started making me keep the doors locked at all times. "Please, Linda, give me another chance." "We can work this out," he begged with bloodshot eyes when I agreed to meet him once in public. "It's too late, Tom. The way you treated me was unacceptable." "I have a baby to think about," I replied, my voice trailing off. His family wasn't any better. They blamed me for ruining Tom's life and accused me of never truly loving him. They picked on every single thing, demanding that I return the gifts they had given Tom throughout our short marriage. Tom's mother, Mary, even called and demanded that I help find the missing pot lid she had given us. "I want you to go through every box and shelf until you find it, young lady." "I know you have it somewhere," she scolded. I almost gave up under the immense pressure of Tom and his overbearing family. But then I felt the strong pushes of my baby, who, against all odds, was growing safely inside me. I knew I had to go through with the divorce for his sake, to rid him of his dysfunction and fickleness. As soon as the divorce was finalized, I changed the locks and turned off my phone, desperate to cut all ties. I sank down on the couch, emotionally and physically exhausted, but finally free. Raising a child on my own was no more difficult than living another day in the face of Tom's abusive, family-supported life. I placed my hand on my stomach, soothing my troubled son. "It's just you and me now, baby. We're going to be okay." The next 12 years were filled with the challenges, but also the great joy of raising my son, Sam, as a single mom. I worked hard to provide for him, but we built a comfortable, peaceful life together. I made sure we lived away from Tom and his toxic family, not wanting Sam to be exposed to drama. When Sam was old enough, I gently explained that I was raising him alone. "What about my daddy?" asked Sam when he was 7 years old. "Why don't I have a daddy like my friends?" I hesitated, stroking his hair as he looked at me with innocent curiosity. "Well, everyone has different families," I explained. "When you were just a baby in my tummy, your daddy and I decided it would be best if I took care of you by myself." "How so?" asked Sam. "It's complicated adult stuff," I said. "But the important thing is that we have each other, and I love you very much." Sam looked satisfied, snuggling into my arms. Years passed, and he never asked about Tom again, growing under my tutelage into a kind, confident young man. On the day of his 18th birthday, I felt I had to tell him the whole truth. "I want you to know that if you ever have any questions about your father, or want to contact his family, you have my full support," I offered. Sam shrugged. "As far as I'm concerned, you're all the family I need, Mom. I love you." My heart swelled with pride in my mature, caring son. He was everything I could ever hope for, and he was more than enough to fill our little family. I was at work when I heard the news that Tom had passed away. My coworker Janet hesitantly approached my desk. "Linda, I'm so sorry to have to tell you this, but I just found out that your ex-husband Tom died last weekend," she said softly. For a moment, I froze, stunned. It had been over a decade since I had last seen him or spoken to him since our horrible divorce. I felt strangely detached at this news about a near stranger. "What's wrong?" I asked. "I guess the alcohol and drugs got the best of him," Janet replied. "He ended up in a bar fight and was killed." I shook my head. After all the pain he'd caused me, it seemed sadly inevitable that Tom would meet a tragic, premature end. But I had long since stopped feeling any connection to his fate. "Are you going to tell Sam?" asked Janet. "No, there's no need to tell him yet," I replied. "They have no relationship. Sam doesn't even know who he is. As sad as it is, Tom has nothing to do with our lives anymore." I decided not to attend the funeral. It would only reawaken painful memories of the abuse I had suffered. Sam didn't need to deal with such darkness from a man he never knew. We went on with our normal lives, though I felt a small weight lifted off of me, knowing that I no longer had to worry about Tom ever showing up again. Sam and I were calm and peaceful in our quiet world, that I had worked so hard to achieve. I was washing the dishes a week after learning of Tom's death when the phone rang. Glancing at the caller ID, I didn't recognize the number. "Hello?" I answered cautiously. "Linda, it's Mary." Tom's mother, the voice on the other end, answered. I almost dropped the phone in shock. It had been over 12 years since I had last spoken to my bitter ex-mother-in-law. I grabbed the edge of the counter to keep myself on my feet. "Mary, how unexpected to hear from you," I said slowly. "What can I do for you after all these years?" "I'm calling because Tom is dead, as you know," she stated bluntly. "You need to pay for a plaque and decorate his grave properly." I was at a loss for words, rage building up inside me as she continued. "After all, he was Sam's father. You should honor us and Tom by putting up a nice headstone for him." Such insolence made me shudder. A debt of gratitude to them? After years of abuse at the hands of Tom's family? I struggled to keep my voice steady. "You must be out of your mind, Mary," I said through clenched teeth. "Tom lost all privileges as Sam's father when he attacked me. We don't owe you or Tom anything. Now listen to me, young lady," shouted Mary angrily. "We took you into our family, and this is how you repay us. You ungrateful, heartless." I hung up the phone half-heartedly, interrupting her rage. Grabbing the counter, I focused on equalizing my breathing, not wanting to let this horrible woman ruin 12 years of stability. Sam and I owed them nothing. The past is best left buried, Tom included. For days after that shocking call from Mary, I struggled to process the nervousness of her demands. Sam noticed that I had become quieter and more distracted than usual. "Is everything okay, Mom?" he asked one day at dinner. "You seem worried about something." I smiled weakly. "Oh, just some nonsense from work," I said, not wanting to burden him with the truth. But my thoughts kept returning to the call and replaying Mary's words. Decorate Tom's grave? That man doesn't deserve a twig on his plot after what he did to me, I thought bitterly. I decided to visit my mom to talk things over with the only person who could understand me. She opened the door and immediately knew something was wrong. "What's bothering you, dear?" she asked softly as we sat together sipping tea. I told the whole story. Mary's call, her demands about the headstone, my anger and confusion. Mom listened to me in silence and then said carefully, "You owe that man and his pathetic family nothing, Linda. But don't let their petty cruelty steal your newfound peace. They couldn't break your spirit before, and they won't be able to now." Her words gave me strength. She was right. I had endured the worst of Tom and his cruel family. I refused to let them control me and destroy the life I had built with my son. They no longer deserved my mental energy or the money spent on their plaque. The past had to stay buried with Tom once and for all. As I watched Sam graduate from high school, I was overwhelmed with pride at what a wonderful young man he had become. All the hardships of my teenage marriage, the abuse, the divorce, all now seemed a small price to pay for the joy of raising my son. As I helped Sam pack for college, I looked through old photo albums in silence. Little Sam giggling in the bathroom, his huge smile without his two front teeth on his first day of kindergarten. Photos of all our happy memories, just the two of us. Sam noticed my emotions and hugged me tightly. "I'm going to miss you madly, Mom." "But you gave me the best childhood ever," he said. "I'll be proud of you, I promise." I took his handsome face in my hands. "Oh, Sam, you've already made me proud of you as the proudest mom in the world. And no matter what happens, I'll always be by your side." He headed off to college with a confidence and optimism that reminded me so much of myself at his age. But he had one advantage I didn't have at the time, an unwavering motherly love that carried him through all of life's twists and turns. Years of struggling alone had made me a survivor, resilient, fiercely protective of my son, and unwilling to be manipulated again. Looking at the photo album, I realized that even though Sam was grown, In some ways, I was still that brave 19-year-old girl. But now, with wisdom and experience, I finally felt in complete control of the direction of my life. The past was just a prologue to the bright future that Sam and I would build together.